In today's podcast, I'm going to be talking about 10 essential tools that I wouldn't be without, and maybe if I had to travel somewhere, I would definitely take these 10 tools with us. I'd most likely take some other tools with us, but at a push, these would be the 10 tools I would take with us. So a little bit earlier, maybe about half an hour ago, 45 minutes ago, I was actually just putting the finish on this shaker style shelf I've just finished up. And when I was putting the finish on, I thought to myself, could I actually build something like this, with 10 tools? And thinking about it, I could. So I thought I'd go over some of the tools that I would use to build something like this, and maybe just give a few reasons why I've picked the tool. I'm not going to go into depth about it. Obviously, I would be here for hours if I did. But I'm just going to give a very brief overview of why. First up would be the ryoba saw. I mean, come on. If you haven't got one of these, you really need to get a ryoba saw. They're so versatile. I wouldn't be without one. The reasons why I would pick this, and this would probably be my number one pick, this most likely, the way my mind works, this would be the first thing I picked from the wall to take with us if I was going somewhere. So you can rip cut with one of these and you can cross cut with one of these. That's just by looking at it. Anybody that does a little bit of woodworking would know that. So what some people don't know, quite a lot of people actually, you can actually cut circles out with these. I've done it. There's videos of us actually doing this, and there's videos of us cutting curves as well. Check them out. They're on my Instagram. On my YouTube channel, there is a video called somewhere along the lines of making a bedside table, and in that video I actually use this saw. I think it's actually the same blade, to cut a full circle out with it. So it is very possible. I also cut a lot of curves with this, not a problem. You can also do some fine joinery with it, believe it or not. There is some limitations with this, but you can easily cut some dovetails with it. I wouldn't hesitate at all to cut some dovetails with it. Don't get us wrong, I've got two dedicated dovetail saws here that I do use for dovetailing, but at a push, I'd easily use this and I would be okay with the results of it. The results are very reasonable. That goes with other joints, mortise and tenon joints. Obviously the tenon joint, cutting the cheeks, not a problem with this. So as far as I'm concerned, and again, this is only my opinion and this is one of my top 10 tools, is that it's worth its weight in gold, and I wouldn't hesitate to recommend this to anyone. So there is a bit of a caveat to these saws. You do have to learn how to use one, especially if you've been using the likes of Western saws, things like that. Next on the list is a number 4 smoothing plane. You can do quite a lot with a number 4, believe it or not. So when I first started woodworking, before I had me number 5 jack planes, I've actually got 2 there. I learned how to actually use this to straighten an edge. If I was going to do some kind of jointing, if I was joining boards together, glue up, anything from like a meter, and I've even done it all the way up to I think 6-7 foot. I might have even done 8 foot at one time, believe it or not. Again, you do have to learn how to do that sort of thing, but it is possible. I've done it for quite a few years. Another thing you can do with these is put chamfers on stuff. Very easy. These are super simple to use to put chamfers on. Same as round overs, you can do a nice round over with one of these. You can round, if you're making some sort of a table leg, something like that, it's very easy to round over with one of these. Again, you do have to learn how to use it. And obviously smoothing, you can get by quite well with one of these. So I would definitely recommend number 4 to anyone who maybe is just starting in woodworking. Really, really good. I would also recommend that you get some sort of aftermarket blade. The aftermarket blades, again, in my own opinion, are absolutely excellent, and I think they're far superior to the original blades. The original blade that was in this, it wasn't in bad nick, but because it's so thin, I find that there was just a bit too much chatter for my liking. So I got the aftermarket blade, which this is actually a hock blade. I've got a hock blade in me number 4, me number 5. And I also believe I've got one in the spoke shave. Yes, I have. I've got one in my spoke shave as well. So if you're able to, if your finances allow you to, I'd definitely get an aftermarket. It's not a must, but I think it's worth it. Next up would be the Humble card scraper. So the card scraper, it can be an absolute saviour when you've got some really bad grain. You might be using your smoothing plane and you might just be getting a lot of tear out. So, you know, sometimes it's just better just to pick up a card scraper and it'll sort it out straight away if you've got gnarly grain. These are really good. I use this on absolutely everything. I use this on table legs. I use it on boards. You know, obviously making furniture, anything like that. These come in really, really handy. You can make these can be made from old saw blades. You can buy them. I think they're like maybe what, £5 to buy, if that. I'm not overly sure. I can't remember the last time I bought one of these. It was quite a while ago. But they do last a pretty long time. But again, so cheap. You know, I really think everybody should have one of these. I did actually do a video about the card scraper. I think that should be due out in the next couple of weeks. Anyone interested in learning how to sharpen and use one of these, keep an eye out for that. Next up is a combination square. So I did think about this long and hard. I like combination squares, but I have to be honest, one of the squares I use the most is probably the speed square, believe it or not. I wouldn't really consider this for fine joinery, you know, cutting joints and whatever else, but I do actually use it for that. I think it's great to find angles. I do use it for a number of things. I just think they're really, really handy. And I was nearly going to put this in the list, but I think for the majority of people, the combination squares, it's going to be more practical. You can pull multiple parallel lines. So for anyone that doesn't know, you'd actually put the edge to the workpiece, put a pencil, the ruler. Obviously you'd have where your marking wants to go, and you can just pull a line with a pencil. Obviously you've got 90 degrees and you've got 45 degrees. So these are really, really good. I do still use this, but as I said, I do tend to use a speed square more. Another thing I have started using, just while we're on the subject, is one of these guys. I'm not actually sure of the correct name for it. Anybody know the correct name for this? Put it in the comments. So this is really handy, especially I find when I'm marking out for joinery. If I'm marking out for maybe some housing joint and I've got to go on the other side, on the edge of the board, you know, just to take my line down, or maybe a tenant, I find it good for that sort of thing. Or even just squaring all the way around. Maybe I need to cut something and I need it to be precise. You know, maybe I have to finish up with a little smoothing plane afterwards, just to make the edge nice and flush. I find that really handy for the, you know, to follow the knife all around. But as I said, the combination square has to be the pick. Next up is a mortise gauge. So the mortise gauge, I've had this one for since I was maybe 17 years old. I'm now 43 years old, so I've had this for quite some time. And you know, for the likes of mortise and tenon joints, obviously that's, you know, that's what it's designed for. So it's got the two pins on this. Obviously you pull them to the size of your mortise hole. You set the fence with a thumb screw and you pull your lines. Also on the other side it does have a pin as well, so you can do like a single line for whatever reason. You may be ripping down a board and you may just want a consistent line all the way down. So me, typically I wouldn't use this for that, but I do know there's a lot of old school joiners and maybe some new school joiners that actually do use that. Me personally, I wouldn't. I'd just use the combination square and a pencil. But as I said, this is great for repeatable tenant joints. If you are, I don't know, if you were building something and you had maybe a dozen tenants to cut, this is just going to be a winner. Simple as that. Next up is a barking knife. So over however many years I've been tinkering with wood, I have tried multiple marking knives and this is probably the best. This is the Stanley pocket knife. This was recommended by Paul Sellers. That's where I seen this, and Paul got it bang on. This is absolutely excellent. It's nice, small, compact. It gets you into nice tight corners when you need to get that knife hole in. This is absolutely essential for marking out for mortise and tenon joints, housing joints, even the shoulder line on dovetails, things like that. If there's anyone that's new to like hand tool woodworking, if you aren't using some sort of a marking knife for, you know, your dovetails or your mortise and tenon joints, specifically the shoulder sections, you really need to pick yourself up some sort of marking knife. I would recommend one of these. As I said, nice, compact, get you into tight corners. The blades are replaceable. I believe Paul Sellers sharpens his. I just put a new blade in, you know, each to their own. Highly recommended though. Next up, chisels. Obviously this is a lot of people are probably watching this or listening to this and thinking, yeah, well, that's a given. But it is a given. But a good set of chisels, and more specifically the sizes, or at least for me anyway. So I would definitely recommend a minimum of 5 chisels, somewhere around there, 4 or 5. I definitely recommend 1/4 inch, ½ inch, 3/4 inch, and a 1 inch. I have got this 8mm one, so what's that? That's close to like, is that like 3/8? That's close to, I think. Somebody put it in the comments and put us right if I'm wrong, but I think that's about 3/8. 3/8, sorry. So I don't tend to use this one a great deal, but definitely these 4. So that would obviously be the 1 inch, 3/4 inch, ½ inch, and the 1/4 inch. Ironically, I am thinking about getting some new chisels. I think I'm going to push the board out and most likely get some Japanese chisels. They are quite expensive, or at least some of them can be expensive. I mean, for a set of maybe 5, you're looking at like £200 plus, depending on where you go. So I am looking to get some Japanese chisels. I haven't actually used a Japanese chisel yet, but as I said, many years will be listening or watching and thinking, yeah, it's a given, but it is a given. So for any of the new woodworkers watching the channel, it is a given. You definitely need some decent chisels. So very briefly, why do you need a set of chisels? You need a set of chisels for paring down tenon cheeks if you're going to cut them that way, cutting out housing joints to remove the thick of the material. Any sort of curves, you can get away with quite a lot. Obviously, just behind us here is this shaker shelf, and it does have the curves. I did actually use this specific chisel. This is a 1 inch chisel. I did use it on one of the curves. I was actually messing around with a technique just to see which was going to be the easier technique. I ended up actually cutting it with my ryoba, so I did struggle a little bit because of the curvature. It's only very small, so obviously there is limitations to what size of a circle and what size of the curve you can cut with a ryoba saw, but I did actually manage it with a ryoba saw. The chisels, when you are using a chisel, it can be done. I think there's demonstrations of me doing this in multiple videos on my Instagram. Again, if you want to check out my Instagram, there'll be links in the description. I will also use the chisel to, maybe knock off the corner, just round over the corner. So typically I'll use a Mallets with chisel, take the corner off, and then finish up with a Shinto rasp. That's what I would normally do. Obviously, if you haven't got a Shinto rasp, you would just use a file or maybe a piece of sandpaper. I've bigged this little fella up a lot of times. I really like it. So this is a Quishang, I think I'm saying that right, or a Luban. It is a number 43. I think this is like pretty much the same as an old record, 43, I think. This is worth its weight in gold. It really is. It's very well made. I'm not too sure how much these cost now. I think I may have paid about £50 for it a good few years ago on sale at Workshop Heaven, but I'm not too sure how much they are now. Strangely, I know some of the guys from America have got trouble getting these. You can't import these, or at least you couldn't import these for some reason. I don't know the full in and outs of the reasoning. I thought it was a bit strange. From what I gathered, people were trying to get like these sent over, and they couldn't get them sent over. But at the same time, there was kind of a shortage of these style of planes, which didn't make any sense to me. But then again, I don't know the full ins and outs of the situation. So this is going to allow you to create rebates, and it's going to allow you to create grooves. So for all intents and purposes, you could be creating tongue and groove paneling if you wanted to do that, maybe for the back of, maybe you were making something similar to this and you were putting some backing on it. You wanted to put some, I don't know, some pine backing on it, some tongue and grooved boards. This would be the fella to make those tongue and grooved boards. Once you've got it set up and you know how to use it, you can use one of these really quickly. So again, for what you can do with this, you can basically build doors with this. So you've got the ability to put grooves in, so you can, for instance, old style shaker doors, kitchen doors. I think they're quite fashionable at the moment. I think every man and his dogs, or every woman that is wanting shaker doors in our kitchen. And they are quite attractive, and I've built a few sets of shaker doors. They are really nice. But again, if you're doing it with hand tools, this is the fella, or something very similar to this, is going to get you those grooves in the doors. So it is really small, just to kind of, put it in my hand there. It's very small, but it does pack a punch, and I personally think it's worth like every penny. So if you kind of get something like this, I would definitely recommend getting some sort of a plough plane that's going to allow you to create grooves and rebates. Next up is the router plane. I've had this router plane for a very long time. It's absolutely awesome. So what you're going to be able to do with this is you're going to be able to get consistent flat tenons and housing joints, things like that. You can actually use this to put grooves in, or to clean up rebates, anything like that. So if you're, I don't know, if you're cutting a rebate and it's a little bit skew-if, or you're cutting a tenon, you've chosen to use the saw and you've cut the cheek of the tenon and it's a bit skew-if, this is the guy that's going to sort it out for you, and it's going to get it perfectly 90 degrees for you, perfectly parallel to the mate and service. I think These are starting to get pretty expensive though. I do believe Paul Sellers has a kit you can buy. I've never used the kits, so I couldn't really comment on it. I have heard some good reports about it. So basically it's a kit you go and buy, and you know, you make it yourself sort of thing. Maybe not the sort of thing for a beginner, maybe not. Maybe like intermediate to advanced woodworker, or at least a beginner that's been doing it for, you know, some time. They may be able to do something like that. When I bought this, it was about £70. Quite a few years ago now. That was on eBay, I believe. So I've never checked to see what sort of prices they are now, so I wouldn't have a clue. I know Veritas do some router planes, but again, I haven't used like a Veritas router plane that's this sort of size. I do actually fancy getting myself I think it's a Preston, I think the name of it. I do fancy trying one of those. Those are more the square bodied things. They seem to be a bit longer. I do fancy trying one of those, so I am actually just keeping my eyes open for one. I'm not looking for one per se, but if I was to be on a flea market or a car boot sale and I seen one in front of us, obviously I would buy it if it was in working order. But as I said, they're a great bit of kit. I highly recommend these. Next up is going to be, again, this might be a given to people, but some sort of a mallet or a hammer, something like that. The problem with a hammer, this is a very old school hammer, as you can see. The problem with a hammer is that it is going to damage the top of your chisels when you bring away. Especially this one. This one's got a good bit of weight to it. I'm not too sure of how much it weighs, but there is a good bit of weight to this. It can and will do some damage. So a really good one I would recommend is, this is like a 4 hammer. I can't really see the, this is the 32mm head one. So these heads just actually screw on and off like so. This is in really bad shape. It's been like this for maybe a year, you know. I did order some new heads for it, but I ordered the wrong size twice. I don't know how it managed to do that, but I did. And somebody actually sent us a couple of them, and those were the wrong size, ironically. But this is actually quite good. It's a nice weight to it. I do like to use it when I'm using the chisel. I find that when I'm actually using this specific mallet, I get great control. For me, it's just a nice weight. I do like the weight of this. Again, with us wanting to buy the Japanese chisels, I was actually going to purchase a Japanese hammer. I think I was only looking at it last night, and I think it was like 300 grams, something like that. And what it was stating on the description is that the 300 grams was good for using with the chisels. So again, I might splash out and get myself a Japanese hammer. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Failing that, if you don't really want to go out and be spending, you know, money on, you know, this sort of kit, which is really good, by the way, you could make something like this. I did do a video on this. The only thing with these is, what I will say, you do have to get a decent wood that's going to stand up to it. So this is beech. Ironically and admittedly, I will say the head should have been a little bit thicker in all dimensions. I just feel I've been using it on and off for the last maybe week now, and I just feel it's slightly underweighted. It needs a bit more weight. So maybe in the coming months I may actually redo this and make a bigger head for it, or maybe get a heavier wood. I kind of have to see what happens, but you're definitely going to need something like that. So guys, what are your 10 essential tools? What would you put in a bag to go to a friend's house to do a little bit of work, you know, limited space, you know, you couldn't take all of your tools, what would be the 10? And I'm not talking about power tools either, hand tools. Let us know in the comments what you think, and until the next time, I shall see and speak to you guys later.